Welcome back to the boss mode walkthrough series. This is going to be Rotting Woods boss mode, which is the final iteration of this one. The mechanic here requires a selected hero. Fortunately, it is just one hero and not all of them. If you are one of the few people who use Femus, I personally do not use him. I feel like he fails at many areas of tanking. So he's not one of my high priority heroes. The trick is to determine which team you actually want to bring along. I chose to bring both Yorick and Hansuke for a couple of reasons. Yorick, obviously, for the healing, we need that no matter what. I chose to bring Hansuke instead of Brahm because I want Hansuke to be saving Femus from death blows. That's the main goal here. Now, because I don't use Femus, I don't have him ruined up heavily. I expect him to die rather quickly. I'm not going to go out of my way to save him, and I'm also not going to go out of my way to revive him. I will use a revive potion to bring him back, but fully expecting to be able to three-man this with Brahm, Yorick, and Hansuke. That's the goal here. Depending on what your level is, it's possible you may want to actually throw some runes on Femus and see where that takes you. I certainly do not recommend taunting with him unless your Femus is absolutely beastly. Taunting with him is going to be a death sentence. Don't even do it. His Earthquake is kind of moderate. It does a little bit of damage to some guys, but honestly, when you get to his Wild Swing, that's actually for being non-runed up and only 5 stars. His Wild Swing actually does a good amount of damage, which was a pleasant surprise for this particular run. Um, I still didn't put a lot of stock in him. I don't expect him to do much because just watching his physical attacks, when you watch him attack, it's pretty sad. So when we watch his first attack, 1400, I mean that's decent, but it's not uncommon to see him do like 600 or 800. It's really pretty weak. Um, so most of the time when we're required to bring one hero along, unless it's one of my good heroes, I just assume bring a revive potion and expect to revive them in the boss room to get the 3 star. So anyone that played the game earlier before some of the major updates will know that it used to be if you died at all, you would lose that 3 star. I'm quite happy that they've brought it to a different mechanic now where if you finish the level with all 4 of them being alive, you get the 3 star again. It makes it a lot easier for dragging a corpse along in terms of getting those 3 stars. So it's a pretty handy little feature now. So you can let them guys die. The reason that I expect him to die is because the heal from Yorick isn't going to save him. So the only way that he's going to be saved is if we would have brought along Brahm instead of Zom. Zom has his taste for brains, whereas Brahm would have had Team Leech, which could have saved Femus and got him a little bit of health back. That's why I said Hansuke is a good option here because he should be saving Femus from death blows. And overall, he's pretty high defensive, so he should be able to absorb and parry almost anything that comes up. So Femus is kind of just along for the ride. We'll just make do with the best we can. But like I said, occasionally you'll get lucky and his Wild Swing can one-shot somebody. It adds a nice little touch to the level, makes it feel like he's not quite as worthless as you think. I've certainly had to drag along worse people, like some of the previous ones. Had to drag along Baylog, which Baylog is probably at least top 5 worst heroes, in my opinion. He has very few good mechanics, in my opinion. Obviously, his mass silence is kind of nice, but the dude is just not very good for me. I don't even use him for tower fodder. He's not even worth that. So there are instances where there are worse people to drag along than Femus. At the very least, at least Femus has a reasonably sized health pool because he is a tank. But like I said, that Wild Swing is nice too, where it actually kills somebody once in a while. So it's not a total issue. Like I said, it wouldn't hurt for you to throw a couple of defensive runes, keep him alive. But being that we have our potions back in this iteration, there's really not much to worry about. Unless the rest of your undead team just is not as strong. Um, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. So we got one more turn for Wild Swing again. And then get a nice little quick pot shot. We might get it yet on this turn. Yep, because we got 3 guys and at least 3 attacks. So Femus will get to flex his muscles one more time before we end up finishing this one. So here comes a Wild Swing on a 63. Keep in mind it's random. I happen to pick the 63. It's been working pretty well and hitting the guys that I actually pick, but don't count on that. But nice that he's able to polish it off. Nothing has changed with the bosses. They're still the same old selves. Really, it's just a matter of, can you get a mark for death on there? Realistically, it may have been a better idea to save the Wild Swing for these guys just to get a little bit of extra hit on there. Of course, he resists at the one time that I want it. We're just going to use Friend Hero just to guarantee the 3-star. That's the name of the game here, is to beat the level, get a 3-star, and hopefully never have to come back to it again. You can always use quick looting to get any type of loot or materials from this level that you might need. It's not something we're going to come back and farm this one and physically run it. There's really no reason why I picked Grognog here. It's just I haven't really seen him much or used him much, so I figured why not use him a little bit and shake things up from the norm here. Because I have all of my potions, I'm not really concerned about what's going to happen with these guys. Unless something really awful happens and they just start killing everybody, then obviously I would get a little bit concerned. But I'm very comfortable in my Undead team, and I'm pretty sure that I can survive at least a turn or 2 of even big hits from these guys and not lose my whole team. So if you're trying to secure the 3-star, obviously use your discretion in terms of what do you want to use for friend heroes to make sure you guarantee the 3-star, make sure nobody dies, things like that. So use your best judgment, and typically once you get down to this phase, just make sure you secure the 3-star and not try to do anything too fancy. Boss mode, specifically the boss mode iterations, is no time for experimenting unless you're running through this the first time and really don't have any idea what to expect, which a lot of times if you're not watching how-to videos, getting to the bosses, you sometimes don't know the boss mechanics or what they're immune to or what their vulnerabilities are. Sometimes you have to run them a couple of times to do that. It's a nice benefit of having a video tutorials. You can at least see what to do and not do. So this is going to wrap up Rotting Woods. We'll move on to the latter half of Chapter 6. And until then, we'll see you next time. Thanks.